Hey everyone, welcome back to Homeschool-ology. If you're a subscriber, thank you for coming back and chatting with me today. If you are new here, my name is Nikki. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4. I've got a 7th grader, a 3rd grader, and a 5 and 3-year-old who are doing like a combined pre-K level. I just realized I don't have my watch on. Golly, that is quite the tan line there. But anyways, this is a video that I filmed with my sister. So my sister is starting out her homeschooling journey. She started in January. And so this video I kind of thought might be helpful to some of you who are just coming into that homeschool realm and kind of like, where do I go, or have all the questions. And so I thought it would be like a neat perspective to get her to ask me questions and get me to answer them for her, but also for you guys. So I hope you guys find this video interesting. If you are not a new homeschooling mom, I hope you might still get some value out of some of this, or that you will share, some of your tips and tricks for those new homeschoolers that are coming here to see, where do they start? Where do they begin? What is the best thing for this or the best thing for that? And so I am going to try to keep this as short as possible because the video is a bit lengthy, but I've already edited, that portion of it, and there wasn't really anything I really wanted to cut out because I thought it was all really good information. So I know this one is a little bit longer, but I hope you stick it out because there is some quality information in here, and I will meet you guys back here at the end. Before we jump into the video, I hope you guys would go down and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell so when you can check out when more of these videos are coming out. And don't forget, you can always follow me over on Instagram at Homeschool-ology. You can DM me over there if you have any questions or you want to chat about anything. And yeah, let's jump in. All right, hi everybody. This is my sister. Her name is Danny, and she is starting out homeschooling now. And so this is her. They've been doing it you started in like January.
Yeah.
January. So she's just going to ask me questions that she had back then and questions that she has now, and this is a new homeschooler's point of view, and I thought this would be helpful for you guys. So, all right, first question.
So the biggest thing was where do I find curriculum to get her set up for her grade level? Like if I didn't have you, I wouldn't have know where to go. So that's the hardest.
And this is really challenging because nowadays there is so much to choose from. It's just the field, which is excellent because you can really find something that's good for your child. But that's a hard part. So a good thing to do is go and read blogs and go and watch YouTube channels and try to find somebody that aligns with you. Somebody that you feel like is similar to your style.
How you would do it.
And see what they use.
Right.
And then try that out. And if that doesn't work for you, just because it works for them doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Mm-hmm. So just trying, and it can get expensive to try new things all the time, but you can resell things that don't work for you on a Facebook marketplace or something like that. But yeah, that's a really hard part. But luckily we have the resources like the YouTube and blogs and the internet to find things that can work for you.
Yeah. Which is where my next question was for us going from public school to homeschooling. Obviously I know that certain topics that she would learn, but I didn't know where they were, like where she left off in school and where I needed to pick up. And as a new homeschooler, like I said, if I didn't have you, I would be completely lost. So what would be your advice to like where to begin? Like how finding a curriculum is one thing, but like, again, not knowing where to even start. I mean, because honestly, it's overwhelming. It is. It can be. But I have you, and not everybody's fortunate enough to do that.
Right,
That's overwhelming.
Yes. Starting is the hardest part. Even not going from public school to like when I just started out, it was so overwhelming. It was months and months and months of me reading things and trying to figure out what does she need? Where do I begin? So my best advice is, and what I told you back then was start slow.
Yeah.
Start with the minimum and then build on that. That's what I like to do because it kind of gives you, like, you're not bringing that overwhelm into your homeschool environment. So starting small, start with just math and just language arts. the big things.
I did notice that when like certain days, if we did science one day or geography the other day, and some days it would get mixed up, and then I would put pressure on myself, like I got her off schedule, or I got her behind, or I got her, and so that made me feel. But once I stopped doing that to myself and to her, I noticed we had less bad days, where she was either just overwhelmed because we had 7 topics instead of, like 4 or whatever. So
this is an internal struggle that a lot of homeschoolers have. Feeling like you're behind. Like you're behind. What are you really behind?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you maybe behind their public school counterparts?
Right.
Well, is that
where I'm comparing
like,
public school to homeschooling, and that is an adjustment for me as a parent.
And you have to think about it as a former public school teacher. I have this insight. There are days where what you had on the plan books
it's just not working.
Did not happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you have things that come up, assemblies, you got fire drills, things happen, And so as a public school teacher, we would just not do something that I had planned, or I would, try to, sprinkle it in, because you can't cram 2 days.
Or an introduction to something and then finish it another day. That makes sense.
So being behind is, and I still struggle with this. I'm going into my 9th year, and I still struggle with being like, oh, we didn't do enough of.
That's my thing.
You know what I mean?
And I feel like, and I think I called her once or twice, and I was just like, I feel like I'm going to be the reason that she falls behind. And I, as a parent, I don't want to be the reason why she falls behind.
Right.
But then you said that. What falling behind, right? Like, that's the joy of homeschool. If you have a bad day and it's just not working out, or, we have 2 dogs and they're all over the place, and there's just, her attention isn't there, the distraction is there, maybe her attitude, lack of sleep, whatever it is, isn't there, then it's like, okay, close the book, take a breather, try again tomorrow.
Yes.
But in the beginning, it made me feel like, and I'm still in the beginning, but making me feel like, oh, we didn't do the daily goal. And that's
what was on our checklist. We didn't check off all our checks. And I struggle with that too. That is hard for me to not check off all our checks.
Yeah.
But you have to just remember, like, you're homeschooling, and they're getting a more in-depth education than they would be getting in the public school.
Exactly.
If you're missing a day, in the long run, like, it's gonna wash out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because she used to sit at school 6 to 8 hours, whatever a typical public school day is, opposed to, I only have one child, but like our 6-7 topics that we do takes. Sometimes it'll take 2 hours and that's it. Sometimes it'll take longer and she needs a break, and I say, we'll come back to it or whatever. But the difference of sitting in public school for whatever that time frame is compared to now, is different. So that's also an adjustment that I just recently asked her, was like, how does this work? Because she's in school, public school, from September to May, and what are we, like, summer, yes, you have plans, but then at the same time you don't. You have enough time in the morning to do it and get it done if you're morning people, and then go about the rest of your day. But having to adjust that homeschool can be all year long. And so that's why if a day doesn't work out, it's okay.
Right. Because you're going to make up that time.
So that's an adjustment. That's, even though she's only in 2nd and I've only had her in school from kindergarten, it's still, it's a lot to adjust to. So I'm learning not to be hard on myself.
Pressure on yourself. Yes.
Or her, but more for me, because I need to be ready for the day for her to see that.
Exactly.
Ready
that is
for the day.
Great point. That is a great point.
Because I've noticed if I'm not, she's a little more temperamental or hesitant, and then if I think there's once or twice where, being pregnant, I was like, okay, I just can't, I'm done, and I walked away. because she wasn't into it. But I looked back and I thought, okay, maybe that reflected off my attitude.
Right.
I wasn't in it,
Right.
so she wasn't in it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of important.
Yes.
It's actually really important.
Very important.
So
important.
yeah, that I'm seeing that now.
Yeah. And one of the best tips I learned, because I struggle with this too, like they get frustrated and then I get frustrated. And one of the things that I recently learned, Shauna over at Making Everyday Magic, I learned this from her. She was like, if it's going wrong, then you both walk away for 10 minutes. Set a timer.
Okay.
Walk away for 10 minutes. Go get yourself back in your right
So not necessarily
mind.
throw in the towel for the day. Take a break.
Take a break.
Okay.
Take 10 minutes. If 10 minutes wasn't enough, take 10 more minutes. And then come back, everybody comes
Reassess
back
it.
to the table in the right mood
Right.
and the right attitude. And I've tried it a time or two since
And
you
it's
told me
been
that,
successful.
and it's been helpful.
Okay.
So it
I
can
will try
make
that.
it can make your day a little bit longer,
Yeah.
because you're adding in more. But oh my gosh, that was game changer for me
better.
because we would get frustrated, and I have a tendency to just want to get it done.
Right.
And they need the break.
Yeah.
And honestly, I need the break. I need to get my mind right.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a tip that I got from her, and I was like, you know what? That's kind of brilliant.
Right,
Like,
yeah. I
so-
also, and again, on the parent part of it, because I have you to compare to, I'm like, okay, my sister has 4 children and I only have 1. If she can do this, I can do this. And so, in a very, I think, small way in my mind as a mom, I have you as inspiration. Because I'm like, if she can do it, I know I have 1 child. I can do this. I can dedicate the time, and truly, that's helped me a couple of times. It has. So she's doing really well, and I'm proud of her. I was a little worried, like the transition from public school, because she's so social, and I was worried that on the education part, this is going to be more better. I knew that. I knew the change was going to be better for her, but I was worried about the social thing. But she's doing so good. We're doing the field trips, and that's fun, and it's fun for me too. Obviously it costs a little bit more, but it's also making memories while you're doing the homeschool.
You're getting all that time.
Exactly. So that's what
kids.
makes me so happy, and I don't feel guilty when we have a family event or a vacation something pops up,
Right.
and I don't feel
And you get
that.
to go. You don't
Exactly.
have to worry. You know
Say,
what I
oh,
mean?
we can't come.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I think a lot of people are, in our generation, are raised to think that socialization means people of their age group. Think about who you socialize with.
Right.
Do you socialize with only people who are the same age as you?
Right. No.
No, absolutely not. You socialize with the world at large, which is made up of all age groups.
Yeah.
So like it takes a while for people to be like, oh well, yeah, actually your child that is homeschooled is probably more socialized than a child who is going to school.
Exactly.
Because they're socializing in the world as it truly is.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're interacting
Instead
with the
of
cashier
the same
at the grocery store. They're interacting with, like we do in our daily lives.
Right.
So that I'm glad that you've seen that change.
And I never paid attention to that. I never paid attention to simply the grocery store before. It was like just a trip. Now, I don't know, I feel like I have like homeschool eyes. Like it's literally a different set, because now you think and see and recognize things more when she's out and about doing things with me that I never paid attention to before. And so it makes me feel like, okay, she's getting the learning in still, even though she's doing this. When she plays her Switch on the television, I remember calling you, and gaming is part of homeschooling too, whether it's board games, but I remember calling you and I was like, it's a video game, like, can she play? But
I told you there's whole curriculums dedicated to Minecraft.
But the cognitive and how she's doing, I don't know, it's insane to see her.
Solving,
it's so amazing. So again, then I don't feel bad. I don't let her sit on it for hours and hours and hours, but at the same time, like, give her an hour to do it of her gaming.
She's still learning.
And it's so to see her have advanced.
I'll never forget my kids. One time we were like learning, like we were at a rock museum or something, and my kid starts railing off about some element or some mineral and like all the details, and I was like, where did you learn that? And she looks at me and she goes, Minecraft.
Yeah. You're like,
It's like,
okay,
alrighty then.
I'll take it. That
Right?
works.
So they're still learning. They're learning all the time from everywhere, from everything.
Yeah.
So like, you know.
Yeah. And there is pros to YouTube. I mean, obviously here, but I mean, for children, she'll be watching videos. I'm like, and then I get sucked in sometimes. And she has it on Zoom. I'm like, this is cool. Like, and so it does. It's learning things. So, we do that a lot too, where we find those type of videos.
Screen times isn't necessarily the enemy here.
It's negative, exactly.
Limiting it and making it healthy, is important, but
Yeah.
it's not the enemy.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're not learning. That's like how I tell you all the time. Board games, that's learning.
Right.
Like they are learning. They're learning all the time.
Yeah.
They're absorbing everything we do.
And it makes me pay more attention to the YouTube and the things like that I'm like, oh, that video is cool. Let me watch that with you, or let's find this. I don't know. I'm so much more aware because we're homeschoolers now. And I know, okay, this thing, the lack of learning because she wouldn't get it at public school. Now I'm just paying attention. And I'm really happy. I feel like this was the best decision, not only for her, but for us as a whole.
Right. How
it's been able to change so
Your
much
lifestyle.
of our, yes. And it feels less stressed. Less stress. As much as like, I don't want to fail on her education or I don't want to be the reason to do things. At the same time, there's so much pride and proudness as a parent towards her that I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know.
It's amazing
I love
to see when they, especially, my favorite thing is when like they're struggling to understand something and then all of a sudden
it clicks
and that light bulb and they're just
Yes.
like that. I just love seeing that. And it's my,
Yeah.
I saw that when I was a teacher, but like now that it's my own
It's your
kid,
kids.
and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Like just
sometimes because I'm not a teacher by no means, and that was one of my things, like if I didn't have you, but because you have that secondary education to be able to do this, and I didn't, I was like, I'm not equipped for this. But then I get excited when the light bulb goes on. I'm like, I'm doing something, like I'm doing it good.
And that's a lot of people will be like, I don't have, you're a teacher, you can do it. I'm not a teacher. And like, you have to teach people that like, you don't have to be a teacher.
Right.
Like there are so many resources out there. Like you are going to just learn alongside your kids. You know what I mean? I still learn alongside my kids. Right now, I've never loved history more than I do teaching it to my kids. It's so exciting.
We haven't started that, but now that just hearing things, and I'm excited to I know, I'm so excited to do that. The only other thing, and even still, and I think I've talked to you once or twice about it, but it's preparation and nerve-wracking, but what do I need to get together? Like she has these workbooks, but then I don't know what to keep and what not to keep to present to each school board at the end of the year and all this. So that's a little nerve-wracking too.
Yeah, it can be. So you need to check your state laws. You need to, sometimes even your county can be different from the county next to you. So you need to, normally the school board will have like a whole web page dedicated to homeschoolers. And usually there will be a whole person dedicated to homeschoolers that you can call up on the phone and ask them these questions. But as for the state of Florida, what do you need? So I can speak to the state of Florida. We have to have a portfolio reviewed. They want to see a piece of work from the beginning, the middle, and the end. So for each subject, I try to keep, 2 or 3 pieces of paper from when we started, 2 or 3 pieces of paper from the middle, and 2 or 3 pieces from the end. Because what they're looking for in the state of Florida is progress. So from this worksheet to this worksheet, did they improve? Does their handwriting get better?
That's the first thing that clicked in my head. I physically have seen, really on like grammar. Obviously she has to write out the sentence and put in capitalization and punctuation. And I have noticed like kind of in the beginning, it was a little more chicken scratch. And then she started taking the time and she said, Mom, and I said, take your time. If you feel like today is the day where she wanted to take, and then she started doing it more and more and more, and the drastic, it's like flipping a page and it's like chicken scratch, whoa, much better. We just got 2 new puppies. So that was the first thing that popped in my head when you said that, like, oh, I'll just show the difference in those specific pages.
And that's all in the state of Florida, that's all they're looking for. Okay. There are other states that require that you do this subject and this subject and this subject, and they have to do this many hours. Like, there's some states that are a lot more complicated. But we're fortunate to live in Florida where it's super easy. So, but yes, what they're looking for is, did your child progress? So I keep all of our math tests. That's what, like, because we have the program that we use has worksheets and then tests.
Right.
So I keep all the tests. Right. And then I keep, like, their workbooks I typically keep the whole thing and just show the whole thing. But you only need to, sometimes my portfolio review is like, Niki, take some of these out and put them in a folder. You know, right. But I'm a pack rat, so I keep everything. But you only need to pull a couple of worksheets from the front, a couple of worksheets from the middle, and a couple of worksheets from the back. Right. That show, and use examples that are good, that show their best work. When you have a certified teacher to review this stuff, will they just even if I just had a binder, which she has a video that I literally sat there and rewatched it, and I made a few notes, and I haven't started it yet, and I think I'm going to start it now, even though we're still in a little bit of the beginning, but I feel like if I take it little by little and put it in, then at the end it wouldn't be so overwhelming to flip back. I feel like that would be so much easier. Every year, and I never do that. But you're a planner, so this is I feel like that might be more beneficial. A binder with some dividers. Will they look at the workbooks? Will they just flip through the workbooks? They will. Okay. If you want to just keep the workbook, they'll flip. That's what I was thinking. I don't want to take them out and then get rid of she keeps everything, but hypothetically, if I just threw away the book, you have your binder, right? You have your binder. As long as you have your binder that has all the things that and a calendar. This. Right. I've literally wrote every. Even if she read 30 minutes, and sometimes I even wrote the book, or when we picked up I picked up puppies, and then the next day we didn't do homeschool because we had brand new puppies. We were like trying to potty train and she was so helpful and doing things, helping me, since we have two and not one. Which is still training because she's learning a skill. Right, exactly. I mean? So I wrote train two puppies. So even though we didn't do homeschool, but then we went right back into it. This week I'm going to write spring break, like things like that. But this, I usually, for my personal, hi sweet girl. Hi baby. For my personal life, I'll get a calendar and I'm like, I'm going to write in it, and I don't. But this, I tend to flock to all the time. Yeah. And you're doing post-planning, I guess. Right. Where you're writing it down after the fact. This is gold. This is so easy to keep up with, so easy to... There's a pre-planning? Yeah. Okay. So really like ahead curriculum. And some people do that. Okay. For me, and this might be what happens to you too, because you're like me. Yeah. For me, having it written out, and if we don't get it done, that stresses me out. Okay, yeah, that's now that I feel would stress me out. And then so the way that I showed you that I do it, where it's on something that's erasable. So like if I don't get to it, I just erase it and put it on the net. So that's funny. I literally I have a paper clip, but I literally. Okay, so you see I wrote writing, and then we didn't get to it, or actually she was like, I'm done, and I felt done, and so I crossed it off. So yeah, and I didn't even do it over here the next day, so obviously we need to do that. But my point is, yes, I premeditated what we were going to do, and we didn't end up doing it, so I crossed it off. Yeah, and that stresses me out. I was like, and failure. Because I don't pre-plan because I do. I mean, I've shown you before what I do, and I gave you you technically do pre-plan because I gave you the sheet that shows these are the things you're going to do every day. Yeah. But to me, that process works a little bit better because I'm not seeing it permanently scratched out, or that I didn't that makes me feel like I didn't do what I needed to do. Right. But a planner is important. This is they're going to see this. In the state of Florida, you have to have the work, but you also have to show. They call it a log of something, and I can never remember the word, but it's you have to show this is the things that we did. So every field trip, you want to put that on there. I wrote Disney days when we go to Disney. Because you're learning at Disney. That's true. When we went to the Jacksonville Zoo, we did that 2 weeks ago, and she loved it, and I like that we
pre-med, like I didn't have units or anything to go. But now that she's been there, she, instead of picking one, she picked 3 animals that she wants to do a report on. And so now she's looking forward to going back with the thing and actually, so I'm kind of glad that we did it ahead of time and let her get the excitement of doing it. And now she's like, when are we going back? I was like, soon.
So interest-led learning is like the most powerful tool you can actually have. So getting her whatever she's interested in and using that to inspire her is going to be
I'm excited about. Okay, and the last biggest thing that I think I've called you about is, again, being used to 2nd grade year in public school. You don't, if they're excelling, they don't say, okay, well, we have 4 months of school left, we're going to stick her in 3rd grade. Like, it doesn't work that way. And so I was nervous. If she, I guess it could be both ways. If she's not absorbing it, do we just stay on 2nd grade level until she's ready? Or kind of where she's headed now, where she's doing greater on not all topics, but some topics. Is it okay to move ahead? And that makes me feel good, like just go with the flow of her progression.
This is one of the best values of homeschool. Because it's not really fair. Kids don't think about your kids learning to walk and your kids learning to crawl and your kids. I mean, you only have one kid, but like
they didn't do it at the
kids,
same time.
They don't do it at the same time.
That makes sense.
So like, why are we expecting our children to understand these same concepts at the same time? Like, it's just not. You know what I mean? Kids learn at their own pace. Kids are better at this skill and better, worse at this skill, and other kids are better at this skill. And so like the beauty of homeschool is that you can allow her to go at her pace. And if that means like, my kids, they don't love writing. They might be a little behind in writing, but what is behind? Not to them. I see them get better every single day. So to them, they're right on track. You know what I mean? Like, so if she is breezing through a book and gets done with it, just buy the next one.
There's more, and truly, there's so much more pros than cons in homeschooling, and more so academically. Now, I was nervous about the socialization. I think some of the normal things, like when I spoke to my husband and I said, like, we just didn't have a good experience in public school this year. Her cousin's homeschooled. She was familiar with that, and she was like, can I, I was like, okay, maybe this is a good idea for her. And it has been amazing. she's over there with her thumbs up, like, yep, that's you love homeschool? Yes. And so his concerns, I think the 2 biggest things was, he's like, I'm worried that she's not going to have socialism because she's such a social butterfly and she loves friends and people. That was a concern. And also, and I don't know if this is a question for states are different, but scholarships. If she became homeschool, whether this was a temporary thing, couple of years, or all the way through high school, he was concerned that scholarships wouldn't apply to her. And when he learned that is actually completely the opposite, then he was a lot more susceptible. And I think that's a concern for everybody. You don't want your kid to become antisocial, and you don't want them to have the future scholarships or things that other kids would have. Like, that's a concern. You don't want them to
miss out on anything by doing this. But in actuality,
none of that applies.
That doesn't really. That's not the case.
So none of it, like even the social thing, I was worried, but I'm not. If anything, she's going and doing more, and having more time with her cousins, or when we go on family, vacations, or like, I don't know, she's getting more social now, really, than she did in public school. And so that fear just went completely out. Now my main focus is the academic stuff and making sure that's all up to par. She's where she needs to be, and that I'm doing my part for teaching her.
Right.
So everything else is out the window. All those other fears are gone now that I'm in it.
And it really does. It really does.
It
and
feels
that's
good.
kind of what like people have misconceptions about what homeschool is. And like until you're really in it or until you know somebody
Honestly,
who does it.
I was prior to. I've seen you.
Even though you've watched me homeschool
I've
my
seen
kids.
you watch, but I it's not that I was one of the hardcore opinions. I just was like, okay, but they have public school, like not really paying attention to that. And even from kindergarten to second grade, now I understand like, wow, like school is important and the learning is important, like all of that. When they're little, they, it's not, obviously it's important, but it's not, I mean, this is their education. This is drastically different. And now I love homeschool. So when she was like, Mom, I want to do homeschool next year, I was like, yes. Okay, you got it. We're doing it. So I love it. I love it. I think it's amazing.
I knew you would. I knew as soon as you called me the first time I was thinking about homeschooling her. I was like, do it.
And I was like, I'm not a teacher like you. Can I do this? Can I do this? That was the one question in the beginning I kept like, yes, the curriculum, that can be overwhelming. Again, I have you. Not everybody has that, but it was, can I do this? Or am I going to ruin that, the guilt? That was the biggest thing. Now, it's the best thing we've ever done. So we're homeschool. We're officially homeschoolers.
Right.
I can say that.
I'm so happy. Because it does mean that we get to do more together.
Exactly.
Too,
That's and pre-planning that. Like we've gone to Disney so far, but then like when we go camping, we went to Stone Mountain, which you have a video on, but like they enjoyed it. They had the papers, they got to find the bugs and the colors and the leaves and all the different stuff. And she wasn't even homeschooled then, and she was like, that was so fun.
Right.
Now
it
it's
gave
like
her a taste of it.
now she's like in it, and then she's like, can we go to and see Aunt Niki and the kid? And I was like, yep, and we're gonna do homeschool stuff because now we can do that. So it truly has been the best decision, and every time she finishes or progresses, like I'll just hug her and I'm like, you're doing so good. Like I get to see it. When she's at school, I don't get to see it. Like sure, they send stuff home and you're like, oh, good job at this, but it's not as close to validation as like what you said, watching it and it clicks and it happens and you're like, yes, it feels amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
It's so good. Well, thank you for doing this. Thank you for coming on and sharing. I know this is going to be helpful to people. So
it was all helpful to me, and that's why it was like, what was most important. And everybody's going to have different questions, but this was the most things that I think are necessary for people to know in the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, if I ever have a silly question, I can call you and do that. But I think these are the most important for everybody to know.
And I feel like this is where everybody starts, just the like sheer overwhelm, because there is like you're like, I don't even know what to look at, where to start, like, and then when you start looking, like there's so much out there,
a lot,
and you have to find that,
or what website to go to, where, like, I don't. That rainbow one, I still
resources.
There you go.
It's just a plethora.
And I was like, where do you go to find this? So websites and stuff like that are
like, how do you
important to find all of that too. So
but YouTube for you guys that are out there who don't have me, you have me on YouTube. So and always, I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you guys have and point you guys in any direction that you need help with. Just comment down below and I will get to it. So. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I know it was a bit lengthy. I hope you stuck through it. I hope you guys found any of that valuable. Like I said, if you are a veteran homeschool mom, please share your tips down below so those new homeschool moms can go and find the questions that they're answers to the questions that they're looking for. And if you are a new mom and you have other questions other than the ones that she asked me, I'd be more than happy to answer them the best that I can or point you in the right direction. Just drop me a comment down below. I think that's all I'm going to share with you guys today, and I hope you will come back and chat with us again soon. Bye.